Please note that this is not a disaster movie, but the ruins on Ukrainian soil that were destroyed by the war. This once beautiful and fertile Eastern European country, now it's devastated, scarred, including the capital Kiev. Many cities have been destroyed beyond recognition by Russian artillery fire. Cities such as Avdiivka, where fierce fighting has been raging recently, have also become hells on earth. There is not even a safe place in the city. A large number of buildings became veritable dragons due to bomb and missile attacks. Millions of indigenous people fled their homes, began wandering, and the losses to the entire country of Ukraine are even more astronomical. According to statistics from the Kiev School of Economics in Ukraine, only until September 2023, Ukraine's apparent direct losses in the war have reached $151.2 billion. Housing accounts for the largest proportion of direct losses. Russian military campaign destroys nearly 200,000 homes. This includes the vast majority of private housing and apartment buildings. Direct losses amounted to nearly $56 billion. Next in line, those suffering the most serious losses are infrastructure, industry, and commerce, $36.6 billion and $11.4 billion, respectively. And this is only the data as of September last year. This war is the first since World War II, the largest regional armed conflict in Europe. There are now hundreds of thousands of casualties on both sides. Countless people have become homeless refugees. The time has come to 2024. The current situation in Ukraine is even more dire. Earlier this year, current Russian and Ukrainian President Zelensky's public statement. 2 years since the start of the Russo-Ukrainian War, economic losses to Ukraine have exceeded $600 billion, 32 million square meters of living space, more than 1,500 educational facilities, and 400 medical facilities were completely destroyed. And economic losses. It is even more disastrous. Thousands of businesses were destroyed by the war. More than 300 bridges and 2,500 kilometers of roads were bombed beyond recognition. Zelensky also stated, "In this war, millions of people have fled abroad. More than 11.5 million people displaced by war. These catastrophic war wounds will be unbearable for Ukraine for decades to come." To this day, both sides of the war are still anxious. There's no end in sight at all. Facing a fractured country, President Zelensky said when communicating with college students in April this year, judging from the current level of losses, the reconstruction of Ukraine in the future will require at least more than $700 billion. This will make it even more difficult for Ukraine, whose economy ranks last in Europe, to see hope for tomorrow. According to analysis by experts from the World Bank, because Russia launched a special military operation, it will directly cause Ukraine's economic level to drop to less than half of previous years. And as the war lengthened and its intensity expanded, this economic decline will be even more severe. Since the Russian-Ukrainian war started in February 2022, the whole of Ukraine is in the flames of war. Vast areas of infrastructure were razed to the ground. Many bridges and roads were blown up. A large number of roads and ports are blocked. Although Ukraine's economy was in shambles before the war, but it can be regarded as one of the largest agricultural countries in Europe. And the coming of war will undoubtedly destroy the agriculture that Ukraine was originally proud of. Nearly 900 days of war have turned many fertile fields across the country into battlefields. Before the war, Ukraine was the world's leading exporter of wheat and sunflower oil. But as the war continued to expand, the growing seasons of these two crops have been repeatedly interrupted. The blockade of Black Sea ports has also prevented the delivery of large quantities of agricultural supplies and equipment to farmers. Ukraine's agriculture has plunged into the abyss of disaster. According to a survey report by the Kyiv School of Economics, the Russian-Ukrainian war broke out until now. Ukraine's agricultural losses alone have reached more than 10 billion, and the war's harm to agriculture continues. Before the war, the area of grain fields in Ukraine was approximately 33 million hectares. Now it has been reduced to more than 20 million hectares. The report concluded with a very pessimistic conclusion. If Russia and Ukraine can cease fighting in the near future, Ukraine's domestic agricultural production wants to return to pre-2021 levels, at least until 2050. Ukraine originally had a very good financial background. Before the Russian-Ukrainian war started, Ukraine has been independent from the former Soviet Union for more than 30 years. Except Russia. He inherited the strongest legacy of the Soviet Union. The country has one of the 3 most fertile black lands in the world, and its level of agricultural mechanization could be said to have clearly surpassed that of China at that time. Complete industrial industrial categories. In particular, the heavy industry system is more complete. Judging from comprehensive national strength and innate conditions, Ukraine should be as good as any European country. However, the special geopolitical environment has made Ukraine a tool in the legal battle between Russia and the West all year round. Before the outbreak of the Russo-Ukrainian War, relations between the two countries have deteriorated across the board. Russianization of Ukraine after the collapse of the Soviet Union. This will lead to conflicts with domestic Russia. Politically, it gradually moved away from Russia and invaded the West, directly caused Russia to feel uneasy about NATO's eastward expansion. This will completely intensify the conflict between the two countries, and eventually evolved into this extremely destructive regional war. To this day, it is hard to tell who is the right between the two Slavic brothers. But the poor Ukrainian people are the biggest victims of this war.